Hello, I'm Sora Luxon, and this is Tarot card 10 of Pentacles. That wonderful 10 of coins, which everyone in the world will tell you is all about gain, which we as advanced occultists of the arcane know probably hides a deeper symbol of wisdom and knowledge. And we do have that here in this card because it's not just about gain, it's also about loss, which is a type of gain in itself. This is a card of definite force, of culmination, as all the tens in the suits are. There's cooperation here and fruition. This is of the earth, manifested temporal riches and wealth in earthly matters. You can even see this elder, heavily initiated. You have a repetition of both the signs of, Mercury and partial monad, of sulfur in the cloak with moons and these grapevines. This is the Lord of Wealth, often recognized fully in the last season of life. Mercury in Virgo from the 20th to 30th degree shows us all 10 coins displayed forefront and balanced, where fullness, completion is achieved, but nothing beyond that point, beyond the point of completion. This is the culmination of success, not the cusp, not what comes after, but being within full success. And so there is a peacefulness here, almost a slowing down as one lingers in the warmth, watching, the activity of others, or at least maybe being aware of it while not focusing on it. This sense of completion also feels a bit like a letdown, doesn't it? Look at the face of the forefront of the individual on the card. There's almost an ephemeral perception of loss here. And it's more than hinted at. So that in the fullness of completion, there's this somewhat letdown, this slothfulness, as if the recognition and timely appreciation of all that was wanted materially by this elder has revealed a greater wisdom of kindness. Without any personal angles, without any drive, without something left to strive for, we see real neutrality in its full glory. That in finding full success, there's nothing more to bother with other than perhaps this perception of detachment and what it might then mean. That sense of detachment when we have achieved our goal and are almost left listless. It can become very heavy upon us. If dwelled upon or in an unbalanced or unmindful way, it's a slowing down when there is no need for another action to be taken care of. That can dull our faculties. Some people call this the retirement card. I call it the you can't take it with you. Thank God you can't card. But it's sometimes sort of a haze, sort of a mute in our minds. This sense of alienated complacency when we fulfilled or found success or achieved that goal. Notice how the fullness of age and the fullness of this bedecked cloak that he's wearing, this great mantle of richness. You see this tapestry partially out of frame, or perhaps a great work of art on the wall. Of course, it's met on the square and bounded by such. And then the double pillars, again in the background, portrayed in the castle's banners, that we have here a successful pillar of the public sphere who's sitting, paying no attention to the conventions or conversations nearest him. He has no need. And that can result in one of two things: a higher level of mental faculties unbound by the constraints of what's around oneself, or a dullness, a resulting slowing down, which can dull our functions, our facilities. Everything here, this having of everything that we find in the 10 culminating, This has turned this elder towards a generosity of spirit. That's what this person is doing. Petting, this gentler animal near him. The gentle animal nature's nearest him, which the others around him, the two adults, perhaps his children or the child's parents, that are in this town square, they're so busy striving for things or discussing their own things or whatever it is they're caught up in, that they're not noticing or petting these animal natures. Look to how in petting the dogs and making this energetic offering towards them, the successful elder takes no direct joy in the act itself as well. He's not smiling. He's also not frowning. There's, again, this neutrality. So there's this unbiased effect of it being neither good or bad that his face has taken on, and almost entirely, one might call it, ambivalent angelic nature, or entirely withdrawn, or perhaps elevated beyond interest in such matters. That's the look on this man's face. It's also on the child's. He is beyond his animal, instinctive, temporal nature. That dog is sitting down completely subjugated. It is grateful and complacent to his will. Also, these specific dogs, this emblem of loyalty that we see on the card. So clearly that's another thing that this person has culminated or engendered inside of family or community, a wealth of loyalty. Of course, we do note the lively family, these two other people in the background, this child, and the banners of Cornerstone Legacy hung in this atrium as well. The next generation are well-dressed, almost as well-dressed as he is. They're motivated. They have flowers of abundant fertility in their hair and the staff of seeking in hand, which, yes, does speak to us of this card's being both very fortuitous, prosperous in all matters concerning money and the material, for having increased and strengthened the resources assembled over a lifetime, as great wealth and riches are the purview of Malkuth of He. Remember, wealth takes many temporal forms. Wealth of health, which this man seems to have, of relationships, of family, multi-generationally, of generational knowledge being passed forward and strived for, of having those traditions culminate even further and progress into the future, of having needs met, of all manner corporal stuffs, also of temporal learning being fulfilled and timely goals being fully achieved. But there is a deeper occulted knowledge herein as well. As we know, arcana means secret, the major and minor arcana followed by the deacons. True wealth is not a hoard of pleasant memories or even a life that can be pointed to as well lived in the esteem of someone else. It isn't lush cloth or gold coins either. It isn't even offspring that are then beholden to their own timelines and fates, or in having done everything so that there's nothing left to do, no bucket list. That's why this is also a loss card. Because this, I don't just call this the card of gain, which most people will. This is the card of recognizing you can't take any of the temporal gains with you, and they come in a lot of forms. This is the moment where the nobler mind steps forward, unbiased, fully balanced, neutral. The card of recognizing you can't take it with you. The moment where we see someone recognizing that he who dies with the most toys or the most prodigy or the best reputation hasn't in fact won anything. I mean, this person isn't celebrating a victory. It's the bumper sticker that you sometimes see of innocent yet woefully ignorant, short-sighted jest, right? He who dies with the most toys wins. Well, no, apparently not. It doesn't work that way. There's something more to be achieved. And with multiple castles, abundant resource, warmth and joy at hand in old age, every comfort in the world, this long bearded sage in the foreground has recognized that lesson. His mind, his pursuits have turned somewhere else completely because he already has the pictures of the 2 luxurious penthouses on the wall. He already has the perfect family. He already has every comfort in old age. He's achieved all of that. And as it turns out, whatever the toy is, whether emotional, corporally material, or a cultural construct to be conformed to, none of it really matters in another way. Because you can't take it with you when you go. None of it. Not your fancy stuff, not your closet full of shoes, not your closest loved ones. Not any temporally tied kingdom you managed to build while within the construct of manifested earth. And that isn't a sad or scary thing. Comprehending loss is the beginning of comprehending balance. Because all cannot be gain all the time. What you have must go from you to another, into another form. Even the meat suit you're living in, the only certainty is change, the constancy of change. All things move, seasons come and go. A time to reap, a time to sow. Every magician in the world, every greater studier of the mysteries, we've heard all of this before. So, what to do here? Stick to convention. Don't rock the boat. There's no need to rock the boat. The trusted way of doing things, which has already clearly generated great wealth and prosperity. Why mess with that? And it isn't wrong to appreciate the greater perception you now have access to recline in. But having built up a sense of establishment in oneself as an individuated interpretation of time and space attached to a name, a personality label that is you while bound, in the form of the element of earth, whether it's an establishment of inheritance or community or family or material gains, it's going to engender loss when you then have to release that element. You have to release those things. You aren't going to remain here in the form you're currently in eternally. You aren't. And that isn't good or bad. It simply is. 10 in the Sephiroth under Kether. Here is the number of culmination. And culmination represents gain and loss together. Notice the pairs of life forces. 2 dogs, 2 parents. The old and the young. One must give for the other to receive. One releases for the other to come into their own. 10 is both the child and grandfather of the generative act. So what to do when you've pulled success fulfilled in material matters from the deck? Spend time with your family. Every tarot reader worth their salt is going to tell you that. There's no reason not to. Enjoy their presence with an unaffected and unreliant air. It's not dependent. It's okay to not need things from others, materially, emotionally, or otherwise. It's okay to be full and complete within oneself. You can care without being concerned. And if others are threatened by that, forgive them with calm patience and ongoing kindness. They aren't where you are yet or currently on their own spiral path, just like yours. And their insecurity and need not bother you or affect you at all. Be mindful of stability once achieved. It can be dulling. It's a wonderful thing. But much like retirement, right? We see that if you don't remain active in other new adaptive ways, it can slow things down. So don't let it drowse you into a stupor where you lose consciousness in your own life. Don't let success make you complacent. No one's asleep in this card. While we're here, we are under some obligation within the element of earth to both care and keep moving if we can, even if we have no seeming reason to do so, even if we've won all the toys from the toy box. The experience of living is to live, to be in the experience as it is, good or bad, and to appreciate the experience of it. Whatever that particular moment's interpretation of completion may be. Notice which two individuals are both within a fully wondering but somewhat unattached state of mind in this card. Right? I spoke of the dog representing the animal nature that this illuminated, pillar of his community has clearly subjugated to his will. His animal nature is happy, to sit in front of him, do as it's told, and wag its tail. Whereas the child, right? So here are these two individuals partaking in the same act of touching without either giving direct attention of experiencing to this, temporally focused drive. So they're both touching a dog. One's petting it, one's grasping at it, but neither are looking at it or focused on it. The very young and the very old, for in many ways they are the same. We re-achieve a sense, an interpretation of things much closer to the truth that we originally come in the door with and then progressively lose, only to later find mastery of again. So there is a great power in not being beholden to the conditions of reality everyone else around might biasly, accidentally, perhaps even forcefully seek to make you conform to. You can step aside from it or outside of it. The imagination is a vestal sanctum, whether in the young or the old. When it's given the worth and functionality it deserves, it frees our more evolved nature to see and act on what's truly most important, like petting a dog or grabbing at one that isn't paying attention to you yet, right? The man, the elderly man, is in full control of his animal nature. The child obviously is reaching for a comprehension of it, but it's not under, any constraints of that child to do as it says. That child is not yet taking control of it. So much like petting this dog, an act both the child and old man know is worth more than 1,000,000 energetic acts of ambition, achievement, or self-promoting necessity or advancement. This is almost a mindless act of a pure state of a spirit of generosity that's neutral and unbiased. They both know it and fulfill that real purpose without having to waste energy analyzing it or thinking about whether or not they should do it or focusing on it and looking at it. For they're both within a state of deep or high functioning contemplation. Wide-eyed and wondering child, or a fully experienced and wisdomed elder. Same thing going on in a way. The Ten of Pentacles reversed. So in the Ten of Pentacles reversed, now we have the bounty of the grape and structure of the vine falling away, leaving us with a lack of resources, a lack of stability. We see the towers, flipped upside down, destroyed in the distance, and a very authentic lack of both success and resource. Here, traditional normative value systems or interpretations of them could be what's holding you back. Or maybe a family member, family meaning temporal manifested blood kin family, where you're sharing DNA. I'm not talking about a greater or, your ancient family. And some people have a negative influence on us. And what's in their DNA compared to ours doesn't have much sway over how their actions influence us. So sharing your DNA doesn't make someone more or less perfect, more or less credible than you or anyone else. And so you have to apply your own good judgment. Your family might not be the best influence in your life. If your family is generating lack in your life in any sphere, or maybe if your culture, that's another form of a family mind, a hive mind, the community you're in might be restrictive. Your culture might be restrictive. It's okay to see that, to recognize it for what it is and not let it hold up your progress and evolution. And yes, letting go of what's causing us harm can be a very frightening or lonely prospect. There is sometimes loneliness, at least at first, in releasing those around us from our direct, maybe daily interactions when we've gotten comfortable with having them there, always having them near. Even if that sense of continuity or security was coming from someone truly toxic, we may still miss them or fear missing them. Again, that's okay. It's okay to recognize that you're human. It's okay to recognize in yourself statements like, this is going to be difficult. Most things worth doing are, or saying to yourself, this is going to be lonely. When I create healthy boundaries between myself and those I'm most familiar with, that have always been there, but maybe who aren't good for me. And maybe I'm finally realizing that, who, much like a dirty security blanket, I need to drop on the floor. It doesn't hurt the blanket, so that I can take a nice clean bath and then step forward, out of that cleansing water, ready to grow in a prosperous way for my new baptism. Will it be cold for a minute when I drop that filthy blanket? Sure. And that's an experience of life, being without, being lonely. It's the counterbalance to having gained collateral or dependable companionship, even if the companionship maybe wasn't the best thing for you. It happens. Again, the great card of 10, this card of gain, it's completely culminated card of loss as well. That's the greater mystery here. So be okay with that antithesis. Be okay with the concept and also the action of loss, of letting go. It's usually what has to happen before gain can arise again. You can't hold a gleaming jewel that you see on the ground and want to pick up so badly if you aren't willing to drop the muddy, sharp-edged rock you're already clutching in your palm. And both are forms of earth. The choice of which to retain and maintain is yours. Until next time.